We have a meeting with Iran on Thursday, so we're going to wait till Thursday.
And what's the main impediment to getting a deal?
Well, they're just asking for things that you can't do. They don't want to give up what they have to give up. You can't have enrichment. We want just the opposite. And so far, they're not there. I hate to say that because the alternative is a very, very dire one, but they're not there. They have given us their thoughts on the deal, and I said, you know, it's just not acceptable.
President Trump there saying that he will resume nuclear talks with Iran this week, reaffirming the regime cannot enrich uranium and ultimately get a nuclear bomb. This after the United Nations nuclear watchdog says that it cannot independently verify whether Tehran's nuclear program is, quote, entirely peaceful. The president also spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the phone over the weekend on a wide range of topics, including Iran. Watch.
How did your phone call go with Prime Minister Netanyahu? You just mentioned Iran. Did you discuss Iran?
Very
Did you
well.
discuss the Gaza war?
Yeah, we discussed a lot of things, and it went very well, very smooth. We'll see what happens. We just spoke about Iran. I think you should negotiate this. You might be better. This could have been the idea of the day. We'll have Dara get up and negotiate. They are good negotiators, but they're tough. Sometimes they can be too tough. That's the problem. So we're trying to make a deal so that there's no destruction and death. And we've told them that, and I've told them that, and I hope that's the way it works out. But
joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst. He is chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Keane, back with us. General, great to see you. Your reaction to these Iran talks and what you think is how this plays out?
Yeah, well, certainly the president is very forthcoming about what's taking place with these talks, and it's not surprising that Iran's negotiators speaking for the Ayatollah are playing hardball here. I mean, a couple of things is motivating Iran. They want to delay these negotiations and drag them out as much as possible. To get the JCPOA deal, the so-called nuclear deal with the Obama administration, they were in negotiations for almost 2 years. And Obama went in there with the same proposals we have: dismantle your nuclear program, take it down, stop your aggressive behavior in the region, stop sponsoring terrorism, and also stop your ballistic missile program and destroy the missiles that could deliver. That was their going-in conditions. They gave up on all of those conditions after several months of tough negotiations by Iran and produced a deal that was fundamentally flawed, and President Trump got out of it in 2018. These are the same negotiators that we're dealing with now, and that's what they're trying to achieve, drag this out. Why does the Ayatollah want to drag it out? Because Israel destroyed so much of their air defense systems. They are trying to recover those air defense systems as quickly as possible. I think in his own mind, Maria, where the Ayatollah is a supreme leader, and he takes a much harder stand than the people who are actually negotiating for him, I think where he is, he's not going to dismantle his nuclear enterprise. He will not do that. And that's our major condition. And that means what? That means he's willing to accept an airstrike, and he thinks he can recover some of that airstrike if he can get those air defense systems in there and be able to build on what is left from that and still acquire a nuclear weapon at some future date. Wow. I kind of suspect that that's kind of where he is, which is quite significant if that's where, the stand he's taking.
Yeah,
so I think the president talking to Netanyahu was they probably had a very rich discussion about where the president is in the negotiations, and also they likely discussed the alternative. If Iran is not going to come around, and what would be the timing of that, and what they intend to do together or separately. And
the president has been alluding to such a threat, right, for a long time now, So we'll have to see how this plays out, but it looks like the big event is yet to come. Meanwhile, let me get your take on China, because the DOJ has announced charges against a third Chinese scientist from Wuhan, accused of smuggling biological materials into America. 4 packages of the pathogen were sent to the University of Michigan both last year and this year. The scientist was detained when flying back to Detroit on Sunday. Authorities say that she made false statements about the previously shipped packages, General, Of course, this is on top of what we learned last week, where, a couple, Chinese nationals, were charged with conspiracy and smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen into the United States. And, they talked about hiding it in their shoes, et cetera. General, your reaction?
Yeah, well, certainly we're not surprised by this, I think, because China is conducting the most comprehensive penetration of our society since we were formed 250 years ago, wow. 249 years now. And we've never seen anything quite like this. And it's so comprehensive. Cyber espionage, penetrating our critical infrastructure. And what our intelligence people are telling us publicly is that they're remaining in that infrastructure in the sense that they're sleeping inside those capabilities, telecommunications, food supply, pharmaceutical drugs, transportation, the list goes on. And in the event there's conflict with China in the Pacific, they would attempt to defeat the American people at home and break their will to support the war. And here we have a biological pathogen smuggling into the country that could attack our agriculture and ultimately our food source. And I think this is more exploration than anything else to detect and see how they can penetrate and how comprehensive this could be for the future. So, yeah, I mean, we are target one for the Chinese communists, and we have got to make sure we have a comprehensive defense in this country against it.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a fishing expedition just like COVID, right? I mean, the same thing with COVID. Let's see what COVID does when we unleash that or when we cover it up. And then there's fentanyl. And then you mentioned, this, like huge, in many different ways, penetrating America. A Chinese aircraft carrier reportedly conducting drills hundreds of miles south of Japan's main island as well. It's sort of China against the world, but the U.S. is target one. One of China's 2 operational aircraft carriers and at least 7 other Navy ships were seen east of Iwo Jima for the first time over the weekend, General. So there's that. I mean, my question is, I don't understand how we can have talks on trade with our counterparts in China, today in London. How are we talking about business and the regular course of business when you have to trust your partner on the other side, when in fact they're undermining the United States at every turn, trying to kill American citizens?
Yeah, well, there can't be much trust, certainly, dealing with the Chinese Communist Party in terms of how they suppress and oppress their own people, and certainly their assertive and aggressiveness, not only in the region, but as we just pointed out, inside of our own country. Not much trust can be here, to be frank. I know the president tries valiantly to have a decent relationship with President Xi so we can make some progress, but I think the president's eyes are wide open. Everybody in our government, his eyes are wide open here, right, in terms of what China's clear intent is. Remember, they have stated very clearly what they're about. They want to dominate and control the Indo-Pacific region, and they want to replace the United States as the world's global leader. That is their ambitions, and they are about that every single day. Right. And the aircraft carrier in the region operating there is intimidation and coercion of Japan, certainly, and Taiwan, and also the Philippines. But it's also practicing for a potential, as a rehearsal for potential operations in the area if they're going to blockade Taiwan or if they're going to take more aggressive military action in the South China Sea. So we have to see it for what it is. It's part of China's aggression in the region to dominate and control it.
Yeah, which includes their reunification with Taiwan. And, what did Xi Jinping say when they were celebrating the Communist Party's anniversary, 100th anniversary a couple of years ago? Anybody who gets involved in our reunification will get their heads busted to dust. I mean, that was a quote. That was a quote in his comments. It's just extraordinary, General. I so appreciate having the opportunity to talk with you about it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, love talking as always, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you, General. General Jack Keane.